The following program is paid for and presented by John DeMasi. The opinions expressed are not those of Townsquare Media or station advertisers.
Now, WPG Talk Radio 95.5 brings you a very special show. It's The Heart of Your Money, featuring a variety of information to help you and your family improve your financial situation. The financial expert on today's and every show is Joe Yakovich from JML Financial. Now, with Joe Yakovich, here's John DeMasi.
Well, the burning question this morning is, are you tired of turkey yet?
You know what?
This is day 3, so, I mean...
I did 2 days. I was enough. But I will tell you, the first day was absolutely off the scale. The second day, a little less, but we had other things to go along with that. But, yes, it's gotten less and less. And the only reason why, you versus me, I go to somebody's house,
right,
and they do all the cooking and all that fun stuff, and I bring some sweets, and I leave. Well, I take a to-go box with me, though.
I did the smart thing. I gave away all of the leftovers.
Good job. Good job.
So I don't have that problem of dealing with, turkey today, turkey tomorrow, turkey next day.
Exactly.
Okay. Good morning and welcome to another edition of The Heart of Your Money. And we should mention that this is our last edition of The Heart of Your Money, and we'll tell you about that in just a moment.
Yes.
609-407-1450 is our number here in the studio. Joe Yakovich is The Heart of Your Money. JML Financial is his company. JMLFinancialGroup.com is his website. And Joe is here and ready to talk to you at 609-407-1450. It is the final edition of The Heart of Your Money, and you're not going anywhere.
No, not at all. Not at all, Johnny. I'll be with you once a month unless you invite me back again.
Well, it's twice now.
Twice, so I'm going to have a lot of fun and still keep it as real as possible, as current as possible. So we're going to have just a little bit of a different venue.
And we will enjoy sleeping an extra hour.
Oh, let me tell you something.
Right, Chris?
I don't think it. You guys are, you're used to it, but I'm getting up at 5:30, 6 o'clock, and thinking about you guys. So it's not a good sight.
But you'll be here, and so,
yes,
so you're not you're not going anywhere.
No,
you're
no,
still living in Ventnor, and you're still everything is the same.
Nothing changed.
It's just this show will no longer exist.
Yes.
But Joe Yakovich will be on Talk with a Purpose.
Yes.
A couple of times a month.
Yes,
right?
I look forward to it.
All right, so what are we talking about today?
I want to start off a few things, John. I mean, let's face it.
The IRS is a good subject.
Right, and the IRS has waived the 50% RMD penalty for missed 2021 and 2022 RMD for the folks that are within that 10-year payout period. This is under the Secures Act. It used to be where when you rolled over money from a deceased person, usually it's a spouse, and this is, in this case, non-spouse, a child or somewhat, you could spread it out over their life expectancy. That was changed with the Secure Act, and they waived the 50% penalty if you don't do it. So that's kind of interesting, and that's just in the last 2 years. And the other big news that I find it being really important because, as I said to our listeners for the last 2 years, you need to have a plan. And right now, we would all agree that we are in a very unique situation in America, and that's an understatement. But we have a tremendous amount of cutbacks and layoffs happening. Twitter, Facebook, Tesla, Microsoft, and the market is planning on correcting. I mean, I'm talking major layoffs, and because of mainstream media, I should say, we're not telling the whole story. And I'm afraid for this to be the fact, but because of the massive layoffs and collapsing stock market, and we are in I think we all agree, we are in a very strange period of time in America. So I always go back, John, and I've been saying this, from almost the start of the show, you need to have a plan of action because there's so many different things taking place today that I've never seen it in all the years I've been doing this, and I think people need to be aware of it. I mean, I don't think they think it's no big deal. It's going to happen. It's going to roll over. We're going to continue to live the normal lifestyle that we have, and I believe that's not the case here because of besides the wars, besides our current administration, and still going on. I'm still trying to figure out one day, politics, and then, okay, whoever gets voted in, we have 2-3 weeks and sometimes further, in the future of how we're going to vote for some of these folks, and still going on right now. You have inflation high, you have interest rates going up, you have a lot of housing issues you're dealing with. So there's so many different things that are taking place in our history, because now we have the baby boomers starting to pop out in big numbers. So volatility, and I said this not once but 1,000 times, kills income planning. So,
you know what it's like today?
You're going to share with me.
You know what it's like? Walking the tightrope, like the flying Wallendas, but there's no net beneath you.
You're right.
And if you fall, and likely you will,
right,
then that's it.
Yeah.
So I would never try to negotiate.
No,
this volatility on my own.
Because John, you're going to see more of it. It comes back, and then it goes away, and then it comes back. And you hear the talking heads, and I listen to them in the morning, and I get bits and pieces that I listen to that I think are important, people they have on as guests, and some of the information that I've used myself or believe in, and other ones I wonder, what are you looking at? It's amazing, and they're always jockeying for the same thing of buying stock, buying equity, and so forth. But we've had a kind of a last 2 years, we had the stock market decrease, and we had the bond market also going down. So where do you put your money? And for those of you that have money in cash, it's fine, but cash is not going to do it, especially you have an 8-9%.
No growth.
No growth. And by the way, cash also costs you in taxes. And the other thing is you have an issue of inflation. You have 8-9%, and that's across the board. But we all know inflation in different components are 15 to 25%, and I use the egg example. Look at eggs over the last year. I mean, you're talking 20-something%.
Yeah.
I talked to my buddy that owns a little restaurant, and he said, "You're not going to believe this." And I didn't know the number. He says, "I bought eggs," and he buys them in volume. By the way, he's not buying 18 or 12. He's buying volume. And he says, "I bought these eggs, and they were whatever they were, like $30 for 60 or 80 eggs. They went to $150 over in a very short period of time." I said, "How do you adjust your dollar amount when you're charging people a sandwich and what have you?" Because he's in a prominent area in Atlantic City. And he said it's impossible to trying to keep up with that. And he's seeing the repercussion of this because people can't afford, usually, $3 or whatever for ham and cheese, whatever, on a roll, whatever. And now it's, a double. And people are now starting to, what do I do here? Do I skip that meal or do I just get coffee instead? I mean, it's really ironic, but it's happening. It's not going away. This inflation thing is not going away, by the way.
Yeah.
People think, it's over and done with. No.
It's the heart of your money well, it was every Saturday. This is our final edition of the Heart of Your Money. Joe Yakovich is here. Joe is JML Financial. His website, jmlfinancialgroup.com. 609-407-1450, our number here in the studio, 609-407-1450. We will have a guest on the show a little bit later on. Yep. His name is Ron Capuccio. He's been on before, and he is our, I guess he's an estate planning attorney. That's the best way to put it.
He's one of our guys that we use quite a bit, John. He's a good guy. And in the profession that we're in, you want to have a estate planning attorney, but you also want to have a person that has a background in tax, which Ron does. So he brings us quite a bit of professionalism for our clients. We're really comfortable working with him. He's been phenomenal with our clientele that he works with, and he covers a lot of different areas for us, especially when it comes to estate planning, wills, trust, and these type of issues. So good guy, local, Cherry Hill, but we're happy to have him part of our team.
Okay, we're going to have him on in about 10 minutes from now. But in the meantime, any more info on the IRS, what they're doing?
Well, you know what? It's still up in the air, John, because let's face it, they're still trying to figure out the tax situation. We know in the next couple of years, taxes are going to resort back to 2017. So we all know that. So that's why I've always hunkered down to my question of people, do you want to pay tax now or pay tax later? I give them the choice. And if you read some of the stuff that I've been reading, being David Walker, the comptroller of our country at one time, it's just sad that people are numb and they don't believe that taxes will go up and why. And I had somebody talking to me, and I said, well, listen, just because you make $40,000 or $50,000 a year in a low tax bracket now, what makes you think that they just can't turn the switch and say, listen, same income, but double your taxes? And was silent on the phone. There was no talk. Yeah. I said, you realize if you do, and again, anyone could get this information. It's called wage statistics. If you.com, wagestatistic.com, it will tell all of us where the incomes are in our country. And you realize 87% of the Americans in the country, in our country, mind you, make under $100,000 a year. Now, you see that's like a lot of money, but when you have a couple of kids, you think they're saving?
It doesn't go too far, no.
Correct. So my point to this is, if we know they're not saving and they're not doing anything to help themselves, when the time comes when they need tax revenue, are they coming after the people that haven't saved money? Or are they going after the folks that did the right job, meaning put money in a 401k and IRAs and 403bs and all these other vehicles that are available to all of us? They're coming for all of you guys. So I want you to be aware that taxes are hiding, not now, but in a very immediate future, almost expect it that we're going to be paying more taxes. And we do that now. I mean, from federal, state, local. I mean, think about what we pay in taxes across the board. People go, I'm in a 22% bracket or I'm in a 20. No, you're not. If you add all your taxes up, John, you're probably close to 40 to 50%.
Yes.
So remember, taxes, and then on top of that, you have inflation, which is the stealth tax. You don't feel it, but it's there. When you combine those two together, it's not a pretty sight. It really is not.
So what do you do?
Well, a couple things. One, we try to, right now, more than ever, try to do as much into tax-free vehicles. Could be insurance, life insurance. Could be Roth IRA conversion. Could be muni bonds. Could even be real estate holdings, depending on how you position yourself. So it's a question of, if you own equity, stocks, bonds, you realize you're going to have to pay tax on that, either capital gains or ordinary income, depending on what the position of the money is in. But again, we need to be diversified with that thought process. But more importantly, you also have to be diversified in your income strategy, because you can't put all your money in equities because you have a volatile market taking place now, and it's not going away anytime soon. You need to have a plan of action to have multi-buckets of money to pull from to be able to have that income for the rest of your life. And that's what we specialize in, the firm.
I noticed that we're going to deal with this when Ron comes on.
Yep.
And you say, I don't have any money because, I don't need any planning because I don't have any money.
Right.
But that would seem to me to be counterproductive.
Right.
Because the less you have, the more it has to work for you.
Correct.
So
you can't make mistakes either.
Right, you can't make mistakes.
You got to be mistake free. And people think actually that the Social Security benefit they're going to receive is going to be their holy grail. And that's not the case here.
Yeah.
You better have other assets or income strategies, planning, and don't do it the 11th hour. Start doing it 5 or so years out before you say to yourself, you know what, I'm going to retire at 65 or 70, whatever your time frame is. But the other flip side of that whole thing, you have to figure, I might have a longevity factor I'm working with here.
Yeah.
So now you live a long time because of technology and, and what have you. So now you have a combated problem. You got spending the money when you're in the early years, but what happens in your 70s and 80s? And I've seen people, their lifestyle has changed, and you're not going back to work, obviously. So there's a major issue we're faced with here in America. And by the way, across the country, or not only across the country, across the world, Japan, for instance, again, another country that's older than our country. So again, we're having these major problems across the globe on people and not having enough children. I mean, think about it. I mean, we never thought about that years ago, but now it becomes apparent that we're not having the children that we had when we were growing up. We had 3 or 4 or 5. You don't see that today.
No.
Very rare.
No.
So
you know why? You can't afford it.
and again, you can't afford it. It's funny, but it's the truth. You cannot afford to have 4 or 5 kids and expect to live the lifestyle you're accustomed to. And when I see something like that, when I see 3 or 4 kids, I wonder to myself, wow, you know how much it's costing those, and inflation for those folks are different than
even
mine.
Worse. Even
right,
worse.
because all the stuff they have to pay for, and, it just, it's a really a frightening time for all of us.
I get a minimal amount on Social Security.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, if I had to live on this, I'd probably be eating dog food. It's so. How do people exist on that?
They have. Well, what you're starting to see, people are communing together, meaning that they're living with other families. That's one way to get around it. Their downsizing is lean and mean. They're not spending the money that we normally would think they're spending. I mean, it's a whole ripple effect that's taking place. And we don't, as a culture, we don't see that. You're seeing it now. If you go to Philly or any of the big cities, all these homeless folks. I mean, think about when I was growing up, I never saw homeless. I can't remember to see a homeless person. I really don't. I can't remember growing up even having that word in my vocabulary. Now it's taken for granted. It's like all over the place. So we're going to see more and more of that, unfortunately. We're not doing anything to help them. Then on top of that, we have at the border, and I'm not getting in politics here, but I want people to understand that's another drain on who pays for what and how do we pay for what we have and not be taxed to death on it and not having the problems that we're faced with, because you're seeing, like I mentioned earlier in my dialogue, all the big time layoffs that are taking place. So what do those people do? Think about all the thousands and thousands of people have been laid off. And on the flip side, we just had a problem of we couldn't hire people. We couldn't find anybody to work. So which is it? We're laying you off and you don't want to go work. I mean, it's really funny, but it's not funny.
That's right.
Okay,
we are coming up on our first break of the morning. It is the Heart of Your Money right here on WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I'm John DeMasi with Joe Yakovich. Joe is JML Financial. His website, jmlfinancialgroup.com. We have a guest, Ron Capuccio. We're going to talk estate planning, taxes, and more with him and with Joe right after these words, right after we pause for this timeout.
Are you wondering how to begin the process of getting your financial house in order? You can start with one simple step. Get your free copies of Joe Yakovich's series of books. Book 1 is The Heart of Your Money. Book 2 is titled Bulletproof Your Financial Plan. And Book 3 is called Wealth Beyond Taxes. You can have 1, 2, or all of the above by simply calling the radio show right now at 609-407-1450. During the week, you can contact Joe Yakovich's office at 856-751-1771. Either way, if you'd like to get the process started and get your financial house in order, getting Joe Yakovich's books is the right way to start. You can also find out more by checking out Joe's website, jmlfinancialgroup.com. That's jmlfinancialgroup.com. With more than 37 years as a financial expert, Joe can help you and your family achieve your financial goals. Joe Yakovich, JML Financial, jmlfinancialgroup.com.
Here on The Heart of Your Money, we know that many times you may have questions, but you might just be a bit bashful to come on the radio. no worries. Joe Yakovich comes to your rescue. If you'd like to schedule a brief phone conference with Joe, all you have to do is call Joe in his office at 856-751-1771. 856-751-1771. Joe will contact you and discuss any and all of your financial type questions. Or if you'd like to meet Joe in person, he'll do that as well. You see, Joe Yakovich does his best to make sure you have all your questions answered, and in a timely manner. That number again for Joe Yakovich, JML Financial, is 856-751-1771, and always online at jmlfinancialgroup.com.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Brokers International Financial Services, LLC, member SIPC. JML Financial Group and Brokers International Financial Services, LLC are not affiliated companies.
Chances are you've tasted the delicious fruits and vegetables from B.F. Mazzio, but didn't know it. That's because B.F. Mazzio has a huge wholesale division that delivers to area restaurants, schools, hospitals, and more. If you own a restaurant or run a commercial kitchen, call B.F. Mazzio's wholesale division at 609-641-6608. That's 609-641-6608. And don't forget B.F. Mazzio at 601 New Road in Northfield. Call 609-641-6608.
And we are back here on The Heart of Your Money. Joe Yakovich is available during the week at 856-751-1771, 856-751-1771. And if you would like to check out his website, jmlfinancialgroup.com. jmlfinancialgroup.com is the website. A lot of good information on that as well. It is The Heart of Your Money right here on WPG, Talk Radio 95.5. Joe Yakovich is here. He is The Heart of Your Money. And we bring in a special guest who's been on the show before, and he always brings a lot of knowledge, a wealth of knowledge to the program. Ron Capuccio, attorney, tax consultant, and generally good guy.
Good guy. You don't meet him today, right? Hey, Ron, good morning.
Good morning. How are you both doing?
Good. I got you up a little earlier.
Actually, really enjoying your conversation while I was online, and both of you brought up some really important points that I think need to really be looked at. Number one, there is not a single business day that passes. Yesterday, obviously, my office I didn't have client calls, but every day I get a call from a business saying I can't hire people. And it's construction trade people, for example, service businesses, etc. So as John, I think, pointed out, some people are being laid off, and every day people cannot hire people for their business. And that's why if you go into a restaurant, many times they're full and there's a waiting line and half the restaurant is empty because they don't have enough servers or enough cooks. So it's amazing. We have this dichotomy in our society where there's the huge demand for employment, and people don't want to do those jobs. And,
you said that right point, Ron. It's funny you started off with that because I'm talking within the last 4 days, a guy came over to do some painting for our home, and he came over. We were talking, and after he was leaving, because he painted my home years prior, he said to me, he says, Joe, do you know, and I didn't know what he was going to ask me. I just, shook his hand. I said, listen, give me a call in a couple of days. He's fine. He was, do you know, and I'm just talking about other job. I said, have you have anybody that needs some other work done? And he went into I'm going to say a 10-minute sermon, believe it or not. He says, I am looking, my buddy is in a business, construction business. He does not care. This is what he said to me. He doesn't care if he's young, old, can't write, can't read, educated. He does not care. He just needs bodies. I go, you're kidding. He goes, he has not had anybody to hire over the last or close to the last year. He cannot find people, or when they do work, they come in for a day and you don't see them anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm I don't know. I'm confused. I don't know what happened to the old days of wanting to work.
I am very confused too, and this is consistent. I mean, I have loads of business clients. I mean, tons of them. And a lot of the estate work I do is for my clients that own their own businesses, whether it's a trade person or physicians or any kind of professionals, including insurance professionals. Every single one of them says the same thing. I represent a lot of accounting firms. They cannot hire accountants. And the people they're getting out of school don't really know pretty much anything of what they need for the practical side. It's a real problem in our society, and I don't know exactly how we're going to address it.
Right.
But it is a huge problem. And so that was the first thing. And, the second thing I heard was, and one of you mentioned people retiring at 65 or 70. If you are in a field, and this is for all of our listeners, if you are in a field that is not a physical laboring field, and you're in an office type person, my suggestion to you is do not retire. Not only for financial reasons, but for personal reasons. Every single client that I've had that has retired over the past 20 years, and they're professionals of some sort, or they're service people from some sort, they've always regretted it. At first they're all happy, but then after a while they say, wait a minute, I really want to do something. I need to do something. I'm bored. And the worst thing that happens for people is if you have mental issues and mental health issues, and the best way to keep your mind going is to do it, is to work, is to do things.
It's funny that you say that, Ron, because I say that all the time, and sometimes, and I used to say it years ago because I saw that people leave, and I say exactly what you said. I said, if you're doing something physical out in the field, no, maybe that's not for you. Or you can go back and get a job like a Home Depot because your trade background will really show up in that type of atmosphere. But if you're doing something that you're not, other than stressful, man, why would you want to leave or just do it in a couple of days a week? To me, that keeps you active and vibrant, and I think that most important people even never talk about.
Well, it is, and both of you guys, let's face it, you can work till you're 80.
Right.
I'm not saying but I have a bunch of attorneys I know that are working well into their mid-80s. I know many people that are in all kinds of professions, whether it's insurance, but I mean, being on the radio, it's a great, it's a great gig. But the fact of the matter is, if you could speak and your mind's going, et cetera,
right.
There's nothing to stop it. And it's amazing because I represent a lot of teachers. My wife is a retired teacher, and they all want to retire as soon as they can, and they think that they have a very tough life, et cetera. And then a year or two later, they're all sort of missing it. They want to do something. And that has two impacts. One is the personal impact, and the other is the financial impact. My parents both died last year. They were in their 90s. The reality of it is our life expectancy has really expanded. So if you work until your mid-70s, your retirement period is shorter. I believe you're going to be a lot happier, and you're financially going to be much better off. No matter what you're planning that you do, you're going to be better off. No matter how much you have, and that's something that I don't think is talked about a lot.
Yeah.
People are saying, well, this is what you should do, and this is what you should invest in, et cetera. And that's important. But if you keep working, it's more important because you're making more money, and you're able to save more and live the lifestyle you want, et cetera. And so that is the best investment advice, I think.
Well, you mentioned one, and almost like you're in the field, but being a teacher today, and I'll just bring that up because you mentioned it. That's a tough gig today. I mean, the reason I'm saying that is because I know teachers, And I've always told them, do something else. You don't have to be in a teaching environment. And teaching today, when I was growing up and when you were growing up, it was completely a different animal than it is today, how kids are treating their teachers and all this other stuff that takes place inside the classroom. But you're right, no matter what you do, other than a stressful job, I mean, I think you need to do something. I mean, in whatever profession you may be, other than working outside, obviously. But I truly believe, Ron, I've been saying that all along, you need to stay active and vibrant and be around young people. And, I mean, that in itself is the best advice. And forget money for a second. That oversights the fact that you're around people, you're living, you're not dying, you're not sitting on a couch and watching TV. You're doing something with yourself, and I think it's so important that you bring that up.
Joe told me that I will work till I'm 90.
Yes. And I used to say that all the time, Ron. Yeah. It's only you open the part of the show with that. But yes, all the time I tell him, you're not going anywhere. So that feeds me into, now I know Ron Capuccio is going to be working with me until he's 90. And you got a good staff girl. You got a good person you work with, Ron. So that's a help also, mind you.
Right, that is.
That's a major play, a plus when you have somebody you're working with.
Ron, let's talk a little estate planning, which is why you're here. What's the most important document that you see missing from people's estate plan?
It's real easy. It's a durable power of attorney. And I'm using the word durable. And it's funny, I had clients in on Wednesday, and they were both MBAs, as a matter of fact, and they're both having very successful jobs. And so I said to the husband, so what do you think a durable power of attorney is? He said, it's got to be something on paper that's good, sturdy paper that doesn't And I have to be honest, my mouth dropped open with this. I mean...
Well, that's a no. That's a no one. You know?
10-pound paper.
I mean, I was. Sometimes you get shocked, and I've been doing this a long time, and that was the first one I heard. That one. But a durable power of attorney is real simple. It means that if you're disabled, the power of attorney still stays in effect. If you're comatose, for example, and I had a client last year that was in an accident and was comatose for months, and then came out of it. All right, after the accident, and had some issues, but was actually able to recover. And the durable power of attorney allowed this guy's, and he wasn't too old. I mean, he was in his 60s, all right? So we're not talking about a really old person. And it allowed his adult children to make the financial decisions while he couldn't make those decisions. Unfortunately, the man was a widower, but it could happen also when they're divorced. But children had to make those decisions, and they had the ability to do that. And that's what a durable power of attorney does. And for most people, not only younger people, but even people in their 50s and 60s, the chances are in the next 10 years, you're going to need a durable power of attorney much more than you're going to need your will or your other estate planning documents to really come into effect. And, yes, there may be a will. There are people that are dying all their time in their 50s, 60s, 70s. But the reality is most people are going to need that durable power of attorney for one reason or another. And it could be a surprising thing, such as an auto accident.
So you're saying you don't have to be rich to get an estate plan?
Well, no, it's not only not rich.
Right.
I mean, this is something that everyone needs. I mean, absolutely everyone. I mean, no matter what your financial circumstances are, you need someone to be able to step into that. And that's part of an estate plan. An estate plan sounds like, this is a really fancy, complicated thing. Not really. It really isn't. An estate plan is saying, I want to make my own decisions as to what happens while I'm living, and if I can't make decisions, and what happens when I die. And you have two choices. You can make the decision, or you can have Governor Murphy and the legislature of the state of New Jersey make the decision for you.
Right.
So you have that choice. And personally, I'd rather make my own decision. I don't need the governor and our state politicians telling me by law or telling the estate how things are going to go, who's going to get what. I want to make my own decisions. As simple as that.
Okay, Ron, we're coming up on a break. Ron Capuccio is our guest. He is an estate planning attorney, and he's also a tax advisor. We're going to talk more with him about estate planning and taxes and more. And Joe Yakovich is here as well. The Heart of Your Money, every Saturday, 8 till 9, right here on WPG, Talk Radio 95.5. Joe Yakovich is here. Ron Capuccio. I'm John DeMasi. We all return after these words.
Here on The Heart of Your Money, we know that many times you may have questions, but you might just be a bit bashful to come on the radio. No worries. Joe Yakovich comes to your rescue. If you'd like to schedule a brief phone conference with Joe, all you have to do is call Joe in his office at 856-751-1771. 856-751-1771. Joe will contact you and discuss any and all of your financial type questions. Or if you'd like to meet Joe in person, he'll do that as well. You see, Joe Yakovich does his best to make sure you have all your questions answered, and in a timely manner. That number again for Joe Yakovich, JML Financial, is 856-751-1771, and always online at jmlfinancialgroup.com.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Brokers International Financial Services, LLC, member SIPC. JML Financial Group and Brokers International Financial Services, LLC are not affiliated companies.
In these unusual economic times, do you wonder what to do with your money? If you have questions about retirement planning, IRAs, 401ks, tax planning, or any other type question, then listen to The Heart of Your Money, heard every Saturday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. here on WPG, Talk Radio 95.5 FM, featuring noted author and financial expert Joe Yakovich. The Heart of Your Money will focus on you, your family, and the best ways for you to navigate your financial portfolio. That's every Saturday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., The Heart of Your Money with Joe Yakovich, here on WPG, Talk Radio 95.5 FM, South Jersey's talk station.
And we're back here on The Heart of Your Money. 609-407-1450 is our number here in the studio. And if you want to reach Joe Yakovich during the week, 856-751-1771. That's 856-751-1771. And his website, jmlfinancialgroup.com. jmlfinancialgroup.com is the website.
Ron, I want to ask you a question here because I got one from a text. It said, ask Ron if a beneficiary is in a will and that beneficiary has passed, how does the money get distributed, especially if the beneficiary is not a child?
Well, it depends on what the will says.
Okay.
The will can say that it goes to that beneficiary, and then if that beneficiary isn't alive, it goes to that beneficiary's children or heirs, or it could say that that beneficiary's interest goes to the other beneficiaries. So it depends. You can make the decision. That's the whole point of it.
Okay.
So for example, if a person has a good friend that needs the money to live, and they want to make sure that this person gets the money, they can absolutely say, look, it goes to this person, but if this person happens to predecease me, then the rest of the heirs of the estate get to share that person's interest.
Okay.
That's pretty. And once again, it's a matter of thinking. You know, you're not pressing a button and printing out a document. You're thinking about what is it you want. Why are you leaving something to that person? And you know, I'll give you an example. For me, I play the guitar, and I have a number of guitars that are fairly valuable, and I'm leaving my guitars to a person that's going to play them and love them and enjoy them. You know, and yes, they do have significant value, but not all that significant, but enough that I want someone to enjoy it. And if that person is then dead, I I don't want their kids necessarily to get it. So that's how that would go. And many times you have situations like that.
Ron, at what age should a person think about having a will?
Well, that brings up another interesting client. A few months ago, a client who, and I happen to have known the lady, and her daughter is a good friend of my wife, and she came in to talk about a trust that she had to handle, and I routinely ask, well, when's the last time you updated your will? And she was thinking back, and it was about 30 years before. And this lady was 92, and I said, well, this is something we should really talk about now. And she said, oh, people live really long in my life. My mom died at age 99. I think I'm going to live really long, so I think I can wait a few years. Yeah. I said, okay, if you, but I ended up convincing her that maybe it was a good idea to do an estate plan. But the reality of it is, any adult, age 21 or older, should have a will, and it doesn't have to be complex, but there should be a will, because if you die without a will and you have no children and no spouse, it automatically goes to your parents, and you may have a situation where the child has insurance through work, for example. I'm suggesting even at that early age that they look into getting life insurance while they're easily insurable before a health condition or something makes them less than insurable or insurable at a much more expensive cost. And then suddenly it can go to their parents, and their parents may be on Medicaid or have limited resources, and that may mess up what their parents are. So we need to plan that, number one. Number two, they may have a situation where they have siblings or people that they would like to have get the property directly and get the assets directly, so that the things could be titled from the life insurance, from the 401k plan directly into their beneficiaries. But in addition, the will would be there making sure stuff goes the way it should. So that, my feeling is basically everyone that's an adult should do it. If you have children, you definitely should do it. If you've gotten married, you definitely should do it. I mean, those are big things.
Ron, and wanted to ask you, how about these do-it-yourself will kits? Are they any good?
Absolutely. They are the most fantastic thing, because they help make estate and tax lawyers rich, because people do them completely wrong. Then there's fighting, and they have to go to court, and the cost can be tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars fighting over this stuff. But the person did buy that program for $29.95 or went to Staples and filled out a form that they think they did correctly.
Yeah.
So, frankly,
what's wrong with those kits?
Absolutely nothing is wrong with the kit. If you know all the legal issues involved in tax and estate planning and your financial planning, if you understand those issues, you understand all the legal terms, then that could be something that may help you. But I suggest if you do that, then you're an attorney,
yeah.
And you're not going to use one of those kits. You're going to use professional stuff.
Yeah. I always thought they're questionable. That's my opinion. But I got a will. I went to Staples and I got the thing, and it's all right.
Well, that's where
when I was younger, there used to be a clothing store that I would go, and they would routinely hand out an envelope, a free will. That was part of their gimmick. And it was hilarious. And so, but
it doesn't. But you would agree, Ron. It's not. It's really cost effective in so many different ways. I mean, you of what you do for a client, and I've been with the clients after they were speaking with you. Not only they're happy with you, but you cover all the potential questions they would have anyway. Which, the do-it-yourselfers, that's not covered at all, or maybe just a fraction of it. But the fact that when you leave your office, I mean, it's almost you feel complete because now you've really addressed all the conversations that people never think about, but now you have brought them that to the forefront, and they absolutely like that because now their conscience is clear, and now you know and they know that you've done the right thing, and it's not like you have to change it, once a year. I mean, some of these things, what would you recommend that you would look at? How many times again over a period of course of someone's lifetime? What would you say in that case?
Well, I'd say when there are events that change, as children get older, as people change, as people die, when events happen, if you get divorced or you become widowed, as events happen, that should be one trigger. And the second trigger is it needs to be looked at every 5 years.
Okay. And
the durable power of attorney needs to be updated, and you need to keep looking at it. But it's not that it's a document.
Right.
People look at it as a will. They look at it as if they're buying a frying pan in a store. That's not what it is. We're talking. We're planning. We're thinking. And that's what needs to be done because it needs to be tied in with all of the financial planning, with all of the insurance planning. Yeah, there was discussion before I got on, and you guys were talking about, making sure people have enough assets. Well, it's the kind of assets they have too,
right?
And a lot of people have significant amounts of money in taxable inheritance things, such as 401ks, rollover IRAs, etc. And the law has become very unfavorable for that when they die, if they're not going to a spouse. The beneficiaries have to take it out over a 10-year period of time.
Right.
And that's unfavorable. So let's say you're in your 60s or early 70s, and you have a big chunk of money sitting in an IRA, and your spouse is dead, because if you're alive, the first person you should consider is the spouse, and we could talk about why. But it then goes to your children, who may be in their 40s at peak earning periods.
Right.
And this is going to just be added to their income.
Mm-hmm.
So I talk about Roth IRAs, converting into Roths. And you guys know, Joe knows I'm big on that.
Yes.
Some people are a lot less big on it, but the fact of the matter is, it can be a huge burden on the beneficiaries to have to add this income. And yes, they're getting something, but they may be paying 50% of every dollar. So not something that you can look at lightly, and that's one of the things that's part of the estate planning thing. I work with financial planners. I work with the people that they're doing. I mean, Joe and I have had a ton of conversations about clients, and Rothing them. What happens? It's all a team. It's all thinking. It's not documents. It's thinking.
Ron, one more question. This living trust, does it avoid probate and then you don't need a will or whatever? Talk about the living trust and what it does.
All a living trust is an entity. When people talk about trust, think of it as a person. It's a separate person from you, and that money is going to go into that trust. That trust is then going to distribute the money to the beneficiaries. Well, money has to get into the trust. So everything is not going to be titled in the trust. So you're going to need the will to pour it over, as lawyers use the term, to make it go from one part of your estate into the trust when you're dying. So definitely it has a lot of value, but it doesn't eliminate probate. And probate is nothing in New Jersey, honestly. Most of the time, it's a very inexpensive process. It takes time of dealing with all the companies and getting the assets, but the cost of probate is not the issue. It's really not going to speed things up if you have stuff all tied up in a trust. It may actually make it more confusing.
Okay, Ron, we thank you for coming on the show today.
Ron, another outstanding presentation that we've made to the people that are listening. And you and I are in so much unison because of this. I'm so happy that we've built this relationship up, and it just saddens me that every time I speak with someone, it boggles my mind. Even my beginning years, I would ask my first question would be, do you have a will? And it's amazing to me, Ron, that so many people do not. Or, yeah, I have a will. I said, when? Well, when my daughter was 3, and now she's 40. Okay, good job.
Or I like this. When I die, my wife's getting everything.
Right. So it's amazing that these things are still continuously to happen. But we talk about it all the time. So, Ron, thank you very much for sharing. And Ron, do me a favor for the listening audience. Would you belt out your phone numbers and contact for us?
Sure. My phone number is 856-665-2121. Once again, 856-665-2121. I'm here in Cherry Hill, but I have clients, frankly, all over the country and all over the state. And the other thing is, if on December 3rd, if people are going to possibly want to be in the Cherry Hill area, I am a member of the Pine Barrens Chorus, and we sing barbershop and other things. We have our holiday show, and if someone calls my office and they say they heard me on the show, I will give you 2 tickets to the concert, either at 2 o'clock or 7:30. And it's a great time. It's a great way to start the holiday season. So I'll give you the number again, and you can call and ask my legal assistant, Trish, and she'll be there on Monday. But you can even leave a message, and we'll get it. And my number is 856-665-2121, and ask for those tickets because we would love to have you come and hear us sing.
Okay, Ron. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Ron.
Appreciate
Talk to you soon.
We'll have some final thoughts on the heart of your money right after these words.
Here on The Heart of Your Money, we know that many times you may have questions, but you might just be a bit bashful to come on the radio. No worries. Joe Yakovich comes to your rescue. If you'd like to schedule a brief phone conference with Joe, all you have to do is call Joe in his office at 856-751-1771. 856-751-1771. Joe will contact you and discuss any and all of your financial type questions. Or if you'd like to meet Joe in person, he'll do that as well. You see, Joe Yakovich does his best to make sure you have all your questions answered, and in a timely manner. That number again for Joe Yakovich, JML Financial, is 856-751-1771, and always online at jmlfinancialgroup.com.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Brokers International Financial Services, LLC, member SIPC. JML Financial Group and Brokers International Financial Services, LLC are not affiliated companies.
Are you wondering how to begin the process of getting your financial house in order? You can start with one simple step. Get your free copies of Joe Yakovich's series of books. Book 1 is The Heart of Your Money. Book 2 is titled Bulletproof Your Financial Plan. And Book 3 is called Wealth Beyond Taxes. You can have 1, 2, or all of the above by simply calling the radio show right now at 609-407-1450. During the week, you can contact Joe Yakovich's office at 856-751-1771. Either way, if you'd like to get the process started and get your financial house in order, getting Joe Yakovich's books is the right way to start. You can also find out more by checking out Joe's website, jmlfinancialgroup.com. That's jmlfinancialgroup.com. With more than 37 years as a financial expert, Joe can help you and your family achieve your financial goals. Joe Yakovich, JML Financial, jmlfinancialgroup.com.
And we're back here on the Heart of Your Money. If you want to reach Joe Yakovich during the week, 856-751-1771, 856-751-1771, and his website, jmlfinancialgroup.com, jmlfinancialgroup.com. Joe, we have 2 minutes left. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I mean, we had a phenomenal 2 years of working together. I loved it. Just remember, planning is the most important thing, and having a team around you to be able to, like Ron mentioned, having those type of conversations. What's the best strategy to do here, and not just hide under your covers and think this stuff is going to go away. So we're big believers of being able to plan for people, not only when we start in retirement, but through their retirement. Having a guy like Ron Capuccio on our team makes my life quite easy, because now it's one of the questions that we ask all the time. Do you have a will? Do you have a power of attorney? Do you have a living will? And these are the questions that need to be asked. And if you don't ask them, people are going to go, no, they don't even think about it.
Usually you end with a message.
Well, my message would be, we're still going to be here. We're still going to be with the Heart of Your Money and transferring into your operation and coming on as once a month, twice a month. So we still want to continue to have our listeners to peek up and listen to some of the finer financial strategies and planning strategies.
So you're not going.
We're not leaving. We're still here in Ventnor, and we're looking forward to continue to work in this area.
Well, that's going to wrap up another edition of the Heart of Your Money. Joe Yakovich, 856-751-1771. His website, jmlfinancialgroup.com, jmlfinancialgroup.com. For Joe Yakovich, I'm John DeMasi. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Joe Yakovich is a registered representative with Brokers International Financial Services, LLC, member SIPC. Opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of Brokers Financial or Joe Yakovich. The topics discussed and opinions given are not intended to address the specific needs of any listener. JML Financial Group does not offer legal or tax advice. Listeners are encouraged to discuss their financial needs with the appropriate professional regarding your individual circumstance. Fixed annuities are long-term insurance contracts, and there is a surrender charge imposed generally during the first 5 to 7 years that you own the annuity contract. Withdrawals prior to age 59.5 may result in a 10% IRS tax penalty, in addition to any ordinary income tax. Any guarantees of the annuity are backed by the financial strength of the underlying insurance company. Indexed annuities are insurance contracts that, depending on the contract, may offer a guaranteed annual interest rate and some participation growth, if any, of a stock market index. Such contracts have substantial variation in terms, costs of guarantees, and features that may cap participation or returns in significant ways. Any guarantees offered are backed by the financial strength of the insurance company. Surrender charges apply if not held to the end of the term. Withdrawals are taxed as ordinary income and, if taken prior to 59.5, a 10% federal tax penalty. Investors are cautioned to carefully review an indexed annuity for its features, costs, risks, and how the variables are calculated. Please consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses carefully before investing in variable annuities. The prospectus, which contains this and other information about the variable annuity contract and the underlying investment options, can be obtained from the insurance company or your financial professional. Be sure to read the prospectus carefully before deciding whether to invest. The investment return and principal value of the variable annuity investment options are not guaranteed. Variable annuity subaccounts fluctuate with changes in market conditions. The principal may be worth more or less than the original amount invested when the annuity is surrendered.